Chris!
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Good. I think my light is okay, hey?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's fine. I got this new light. Makes me shiny. I
Woohoo!
used to be half in the dark for my videos, and then I gave that up.
Yeah, let just shine.
Yeah, absolutely. How are you?
I'm really good.
It's really good to see you.
You too.
You just
Yeah.
got back from Europe.
Yeah, I was there for about a month, and it was amazing and just rich and relaxing, and yeah, all sorts of good stuff.
Awesome.
All sorts of good stuff. Yeah, we didn't really want to come back, but you know.
Duty calls. Duty calls.
Gotta come back.
So do you want to just quickly introduce yourself just for this recording? Just give me a brief synopsis of what you're up to now, and also touch on how you got there.
Okay. Let me just move this here. Okay, well, my name is Seth Lyon, and I am a somatic trauma specialist and nervous system healer. I practice a couple modalities. One is somatic experiencing, which is the work of Peter Levine, and one is somatic practice, which is sort of a touch-based offset by Kathy Kane. And I started this particular work about 6 years ago. In terms of my own journey, discovering it for my own therapy, my own working with my own trauma, and that's got its own long backstory. But now I have, my own practice and help people in Vancouver and also over Skype. In terms of where I started out, it depends how far back you want to go. Essentially, I grew up in the suburbs of California, ended up with complex PTSD as a result of everything that I went through. My solution that I found for a while was to take off into the woods, into the wilderness, into nature. And I lived very simply. I lived without money for a lot of the time, did work trade, lived in intentional communities, basically kind of put myself outside of the system. And that was a good way to sort of maintain my sanity, as it were, and during that time did a lot of good work. I discovered a lot of different forms of energy work and meditation, spiritual practice, emotional work, body-based work, just all my own self-exploration. And then at some point, I guess it was 7 years ago, I met my wife, now Irene, and she was already a somatic experiencing practitioner, Feldenkrais practitioner, was working with trauma, and we hit it off and started talking about this stuff, and I was like, man, that sounds pretty great. And she ended up importing me to Canada. So
I love it. Importing you.
Yes.
Like a fine foreign.
Like a fine sausage I imported from the north. And then, on the other side of things, which I think you want to get into a bit, on the more esoteric side, in my time in the counterculture, I delved deeply into all things related to esoterica, UFOs, extraterrestrials, conspiracy theory, all that stuff. This was fueled by an innate curiosity. I always, since I was a kid, knew for a fact that there was many other people out there in the cosmos, and it just was not even a question. So over the years, I sort of honed my sense as to, okay, this feels right to me. This doesn't feel so right to me. And that will tie into the media discussion, in terms of the different kinds of information that are out there. But
exactly. Yeah.
So that's how that sparked. And eventually I sort of started getting downloads, I guess you could say, getting my own downloads of information that would get sparked by something I was reading, and I would get more detail or fill in the blanks kind of stuff. So amazing.
I want to just say I hold you in high regard. And why I say that is because I was drawn to your writing. And I can't remember the exact title, the elephant something.
Gotta befriend the trauma elephant.
Befriend the trauma elephant. And I sought you out because I was resigned about counseling. I was resigned. I was like, talking about this is not going to help me. I've delved into ayahuasca and, really stepped out into this place of healing that's highly unregulated and, holds
it's what's out there. It's what's out there.
It holds its own thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In other countries, it's the treasure of their whole society, and here we say these things are banned. So you have to go off the beaten track to get it, and it's just how it is, and you do it because you want to heal, right? Like for me, my story is addiction based,
right?
And cleaning up young. Getting postpartum depression, so cleaning up young, so staying sober for 8 years, clean from alcohol and cocaine, and then delving so far into postpartum depression that I lost all my sobriety and seriously harmed my marriage, came back, had another child, had devastating postpartum depression again that resulted in the end of the relationship.
Yeah.
And then I met you after having my third, and I was just like, yo, if I ask for help, I'm going to be medicated. So I'm just not going to ask for help.
Right.
And when I read what you wrote, and I just want to acknowledge that the beauty of what you're saying, which is I had the inspiration and I made it real.
Yeah.
Like I wrote it down and then I shared it. Right? Yeah. A lot of us write stuff down, like the book and the this and the that, and it's like, and then share it.
Yeah, put it out there.
So freely, and I just want to say, there's a large part of my life in the last year that I owe to you. And to say that sounds strange. However, if you hadn't have shared that information, and I wouldn't have been able to connect to your philosophy, I would never have hired you as a therapist. And if I hadn't hired you as a therapist, I would have done what I did this whole time, which is to dive and then use and then recover. And I don't know my way out of it without it.
Yeah.
And so I just want to honor you and your practice. And you were my therapist, and here's something even better. You got me well.
Well, I'll have to say you got you well because
I got you well. However, I left your practice. I left your practice not because I needed to. Yeah. I left your practice because I was well and I wanted to learn. I wanted to take your wife's program because I was like, well, now that I'm back to who I am, which is, somebody strong that can manage their nervous system, I need to learn so that I can incorporate this into my practice, which is, something that I'm stretching into always, like with online education and how do I share and how do I be true to my family? How do I be true to my own health? Like you guys share a lot about that, like boundaries, like we're actually not accessible for 2 weeks. So peace. I'm posting cool pictures. So don't take that for like we're available because we're not.
Right.
Like it's just like, we all want to be untethered at some point, And so this media, Tracy and I were just like, we don't know what to do, Seth. We're reaching out and saying, okay, this media itself is traumatizing.
Oh yeah.
Help.
For sure.
Like help. How do we help? And the only thing we know how to do is talk about it. So, if you want to just go from there, what these news reports, these conversations on Twitter, all this stuff, it's just this uncertainty.
Yeah.
And fear.
So, well, you got it. And, if we want to talk about this, we need to first, I think, talk about even a bigger picture, which is the culture. I mean, the North American, Western, even some European cultures, although I have to say, being over there's a lot more regulation over there and a lot more sanity.
Totally.
North America, Canada, America, especially America. I mean,
and now social media as a result. You can post any link to any news source.
Right. the whole culture is, I mean, Gabor Mate calls it the toxic norm. If you raise someone up in American culture adhering to what is considered normal, they will become traumatized. So that's most of us, right?
Yep.
If a parent did a good job of adhering to the societal norms, their kid is going to be traumatized because the norm is toxic. The norm focuses on staying activated, staying ramped up, staying in this survival mode where you need to consume to feel okay. Yeah. Right? It gives you this little temporary hit of endorphins because you bought something. You know?
Yes.
The media is just a part of that, and it's a very big part of it. It's sort of the big apparent beast that is there in front of your face, and it absolutely reflects the values of that toxic norm, of that toxic society, and perpetuates it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, that being said, not all media is like that. I mean, most media is fueled by the beast, the folks that are just don't have humanity's best interest at heart. Right. There's some media that is not that way, but most of it is. So
the most of it that we can see, like, I'm sure there's a lot of independent media sources that are covering like local areas. However, by and large,
what's in your face is really toxic and is going to perpetuate.
The bigger they are, the more trusted they are.
Right.
Right? When we could be saying the more local, the more trusted they are.
Well, absolutely. And that brings up a really good point in that, people, they feel like they need to pay attention to the media so they are informed, so they know what's happening, right? And the best way to do that must be to trust these giant, multinational corporations that run this stuff because they're the biggest, right? So, of course, they must be trustworthy, which isn't the case.
No.
The most trustworthy source of news is the most local source of news, which is your own body. That's the only news you need. Okay, so turn off the TV.
Yes.
Turn off the mainstream news. Don't read the newspaper. Don't worry about the magazines unless you want to view it as like an anthropological kind of study. That's how I view Facebook and the news. Is like, well, let's see what this crazy culture is doing today, right? You're the only source of news that matters to each one of us as an individual in terms of what's going to propel us forward, what's going to put us into a place of healing where we're following our truth. That's all here. It's all here. Yep. So in order to learn to listen to that source of news, you got to turn off the big, glaring, obvious stuff.
Yeah. It was so funny? Last week, we were recording. We did a solid week of interviewing. And then the following Monday, that news story hit about Las Vegas. And like her and I got so caught up. And like, there was another place to get caught up because we were awake to it. We were like, this is baloney. Like, this isn't even close to a real news story. Like, and then people are like, but people are dead. I get it. And it's dismal.
Yeah.
And it's staged for the love, right? And like, then you get stuck in the opposition, which is none of this is real. And that's what takes you back out to the forest, I guess. Right? And it's like that, because that's where my mind went. I was like, where's my RV? Like, I don't want to own a home. Like, get me as far away from this craziness. Like, love to Las Vegas. Yeah, love to Las Vegas. Love to your own house.
Yeah.
Like, love enough to think about this for a second. So, like, don't keep sharing. You're making it viral, Like,
yeah. It feeds into the addiction and the compulsion, and people feel they're doing something by clicking share, and it's unfortunate and it's destructive, because the best thing a person can do, which I say over and over again, and people kind of, some people get it, but lots of people say, what are you talking about? The way to address incidents, like mass shootings, horrific violence, which, by the way, is nothing new. I mean, maybe more apparent in North America recently, but it goes way back. There's been massacres on that continent going back to the foundings, though, right? Nothing new there. It's just more apparent. But the way you get out of that, the way that you help society get out of that, is by focusing on yourself and by resolving your own trauma. because these acts, this craziness, these are carried out by traumatized people that didn't get the help that they needed, period. It's not, people ask, how could this happen? How could he do this? This happens all the time. People are nuts. Right. People are in pain. People are suffering. They're crazy. They're, they don't have access to the kind of help that would let them choose another way. So
yeah,
if you're at a place where you're healed, where you're like you're doing good work, you're pretty regulated, you're healthy, you're moving forward, you're spreading the word, you're being of service to others, great. But if you're not at that place, which is most people, you got to turn your attention in here first and heal this stuff, because that's the only way you can come from a solid base to create real change.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. And here's the problem with that. If we do that, Seth, then there's no more like mental illness and there's no more suffering. Like, what are we going to do with our time, Seth?
Right. Oh my gosh. We might have to learn how to harness our creativity for good and enjoy ourselves.
Oh my goodness. Well, yeah, like if I can take you there, right? Because it's if our wishes come true and our hearts band together and we make this turn and we turn away from what hurts us, which is the media, the mainstream media for sure, if not every offshot there is, just that whole thing, everything that isn't you and your nature and your family and your little zone, everything that isn't that, turn away from it, and we actually can regulate. How many industries go out of business when that actually happens?
Oh yeah, lots. The world is built on survival energy and on keeping it going. So yeah, once that starts dissipating, a lot of corporations, that's the only reason they exist. I mean, the pharmaceutical industry, the medical industry to a large degree. I mean, if you're not talking about broken bones and real practical stuff, all of that, the psychological industry, so much of it is built to feed off of and perpetuate and apparently address these problems, but they're not actually addressing these problems because, mainstream medicine is mostly looking in the wrong place. Psychology is mostly looking in the wrong place. So, yeah, a lot of stuff would get...
Well, and it's so funny because we're talking about essentially entering the fifth dimension where you can choose your thoughts, right? Or you can, if you can't choose them,
thoughts
you can at least have them responsibly.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, when at those levels, you're creating your thought consciously. You're choosing to have a thought. Right now, thoughts just happen. Yes. And, trying to choose your thoughts and deliberately create them is something that it takes a lot of work to do.
Yes.
Yeah, that's more the inherent state at the higher densities. Is you just, I'm going to choose this thought and make it so. You bring up an interesting point about fifth dimension. I say density, not dimension, but same.
Yeah.
Okay. There's actually the fourth density, which is emerging right now, which is co-creative. Okay, so
and that's heart.
That's it's heart. It's unity. It's co-creation with your group, with your soul group, and that's happening around the world. We see it happening. You're making it happen.
Yep.
It even is happening in groups like the program that Irene is running. It's happening in small tribes around the world, where it's people banding together around a positive frequency and working and that's fourth density creation. Now, if you're actually in the fourth density, then it's a little bit more literal. But right now we're getting there with our consciousness.
Right.
So that's one thing that's important to just make a distinction when you're talking about some kind of ascension. There's ascension of consciousness, which is actually much more important in my opinion. And then there's physical reality ascension, where the fabric of reality changes. So a lot of people focus on, let's get to that whole fabric of reality thing changing, but that's a byproduct of the consciousness changing. So the consciousness has to change first, and we're seeing that happen.
Yes.
This kind of fourth density thinking group meditations, like-minded people coming together, etc.
People living in tiny houses.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's practical. It's practical. Yeah. Right? Like, and then that's where I see like the fourth dimension heart-centered thing, because to live in a tiny house is smart. Right?
Sure.
However, at some point you want to like, you know, have some room. So that's why you have community centers and, you know, like circle time and fire and storytelling and gatherings. Like, that's nature, yo. Like, it's not like these cities. Like, it makes sense. Like, everybody was in a teepee or an igloo or a something that was a little sleeping zone, a treehouse.
Right, and then you had the lodge.
Come together in community, you know, and get everything that we needed. A back rub, a sweater, whatever.
Right.
Just everybody's committed that everybody gets what they need, and they talk and be together, and that's how we network. And then we go to our little sleeping quarters. And here we have petroleum-fueled boxes lined up on every street. We've got user fees galore.
Yeah.
We've got people killing themselves because of credit card debt, because of the user fees. Right. Oh, we're a good credit card. We'll take $13 a month.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we're getting lynched around every corner just for being sleepy.
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what happens. I mean, it's unfortunate. And, you know, people... You know, like there's the famous line from The Matrix, right, where they're walking and Morpheus is talking to Neo, and he's like, you know, most of these people are not ready to wake up. You know? And so that's the sad reality. It's changing, but that's still true that the vast majority don't want to know. They don't want to wake up to what is happening because it's so painful. Yeah. It's really painful when you really understand the level at which everyone is suffering and being driven by survival mode.
Yeah.
It's pretty tough to see, you know, so. It's
even tough. Can I share with you where I'm at?
Yeah.
Like, I'm totally awake, like, can see, and I'm in process, and it's going to be this huge, long process, which is crazy, but why wouldn't you do it? And it's going to be like this transition in the next 5 years from, you know, being in traffic twice a day and, you know, paying $2,200 a month for private school so that I can, you know, give my children a discovery-based education instead of a spoon-fed one, you know, and they can actually experience the world, you know, through their senses instead of through a screen, you know. There's all natural materials. They wear uniforms. Nice. Like, they wear uniforms so that they know that they're equal.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I already have the goodness, and it's expensive because I'm in the city.
Yeah, and for sure.
What I'm interested in creating, especially with this type of media, is, you know, people that are in zones, you know, like acreages are great. And if people want to densify and do earthships and tiny houses, like, that's where everything's going. Like, it's the millennials, it's not that they are lazy and they don't want to work. You don't want to work for you.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
Right? Like,
yeah, well, I mean, it's complex, I think, because, I mean, you can't...
They just refuse to be enslaved. Can we say that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's pretty hard to be motivated when you recognize that the world's bullshit. So...
Thank you.
You know, there's a lot of developmental things that happen also from, you know, being raised by TVs and etc. But, you know, fundamentally, all of that is this underlying hopelessness about the world, you know.
And I'm also on the mend from processed food to whole food, which is, it's a thing. Like, and I was so afraid to talk about it for a long time. Actually, I totally related to your porn thing that you wrote for men about packaged food.
Oh, sure.
Because I was like, it is like porn because you don't want anybody to see you do it.
Right. It's sort of guilty pleasure.
Yeah. It's all that you know.
Right.
Right? Like, I was raised on, like, Kraft Dinner and wieners and microwave this and pizza pop that. And it's like, now that I'm older and it's like, I want my body to be healthy.
Welcome to real food. There's real food in the world.
So yeah, we're in the like move, and there's actually this amazing company, which is, it's expensive, and I'm eating whole food. So I'm working a lot because I'm building a few things, and I'm also a mother to 3 children. So there's this company called HelloFresh that delivers you exactly what you need to have a whole food dinner, fresh. Nice. And like, it's like they give you 3 meals a week in a box, and the packaging is actually insane. And I'm working with how to repurpose that because it's a way too big of a footprint. However, you end up with no waste. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's another thing that communities give us. Is that, oh, I have more, I have too much, like, right, you know, that's true socialism, I guess, or is it? What do you think of that? Just sharing is there
practical socialism, you know? I mean, yeah. Yeah.
Well, can we talk a little bit about what you feel the earth is going through right now? People seem to shift their consciousness on one side of the scale to earth has this consciousness and it's doing this thing, which, yeah, all living things have a consciousness. I get that. And then the other side is that, you know, everything's going to die and we're screwed.
Gotcha.
Right? So it's kind of like, can you speak for a bit on that?
Sure. Yes, the earth is conscious. Our lovely Gaia, she's awesome. And she is going through this is fundamentally what's happening. She is going through an ascension process.
Yeah.
She, after millennia of being at a certain vibratory state, that's changing. It has a lot to do with where we are in the galaxy, where our solar system has moved into, the kind of energy that's coming from the central sun that's available to us now. So she is changing her vibration. And I always try to even avoid like raising vibration, lower vibration.
Yeah, more duality.
It gets into more polarizing. But one way maybe you could say it is the density is becoming finer. Okay. Right. Not so thick and sludgy and stuck. And that's a healing process. So let's look at this. How does healing work, right? There's a lot of old modalities of healing that, you know, in my field, in the trauma field, the old ideas were exposure therapy. You got to meet it head on. You got to really just, you know, primal scream therapy. You got to go for it. You got to these big high energy confrontational kind of states. We can apply that same kind of thinking to what you're talking about in terms of the thinking that everything has got to end. In order for there to be a rebirth, there has to be this massive destruction. All of that is very old thinking. It's all based off of the paradigm that we have been in, which is a very polarizing, masculine, aggressive paradigm. That's not what's emerging. So that's a possibility, right? We have co-creative consciousness. That is an option if we want to stay stuck in the old thing.
You want to burn it down, we can do it.
That can, sure. But that's not what's emerging. And so what is much more organically fed, I feel, is this idea that it can be a slow, gentle process of awakening that's intense. Trauma work is intense, and we work together. You know it's intense in terms of what you have to be willing to feel. But that's the real important distinction here. The more people are willing to feel what is happening inside them, the less the earth has to off-gas it through big destructive events. I mean, we are the consciousness of the earth. We are the emotional body collectively of the earth. So the more we embrace our own process, our own internal slow unfolding where we get in touch with ourselves and are willing to feel it and express it, that moves the energy away from that old kind of explosive paradigm and into this unfolding paradigm, right? Where let's unfold together, let's grow together. There may be road bumps, there may be tsunamis, there may be hurricanes, and we've seen this happening. But that's not the whole picture. There's a lot of other stuff happening, right? So that's, I guess, my take on it is, yes, the earth is changing. Yes, we're part of that. And how that looks is up to us.
Absolutely.
In terms of where we want to place our focus.
Well, and really getting into desire. Don't you think? Like,
absolutely.
Desire has been this terrible thing for, let's just say 2,000 years, just because there's a popular book on the shelves. However, it's like desire, and, it's collapsed with temptation. It's like, no, actually, hello, what do you want? Like, what do you actually want? Not
well, that's the deepest wisdom, I mean, of our soul is our organic desire, like our ability to follow our impulse towards what's good for us. The problem is that gets really confused because we've been told that we should want certain things, that we should desire certain things, that we should desire certain forms that may not be accurate. And so, the one problem where that gets in tricky is like, how do I know what is my organic soul's desire, and how do I know what is my sort of programmed coping mechanism desire that is based off of trauma? So that comes from practice, from listening. Right?
And I think too, like when you think about the divorce rate, if I could just go from edgy topic to edgy topic, if you think about the divorce rate, sometimes what I think as a coach, because when you're a coach, you're like in people's lives like all the time.
Yeah.
Right? They're telling you every a couple times a day, like what is in their life, and there's very consistent things in their lives. Right? And it's like, we're disconnected.
Yeah.
We're disconnected. Like, I hear it resounding, like, over and over and over again. We're disconnected. And then somebody does something, and then it's over.
Right?
And it's like, okay, cool. Except for that, what I call a good break is when there's somebody that wakes up and says, like, I'm going to be responsible here. And you can't actually have that behavior, or you can't actually do that thing. And that's what breaks it apart. That's almost like a good oops. And
absolutely.
So from your assessment as like a coach and a counselor, people, like, I consider us to be the ones like on the front lines. You know what I mean? Like, people are actually of their free will coming to talk to us about anything they want. We'll direct the conversation. However, there's repeated themes. Right? And the thing is disconnection. And I feel that disconnection is happening in the media.
Well, it certainly encourages it. I mean, if you're disconnected from something, you're connected to something else.
This is my hunch.
Right? So
on TV, it's like everybody should be like this.
Right.
And then the propaganda says your wife should look like this and your husband should look like this. And if they're not, then it's garbage and look for something else on the internet.
Right.
And then we watch like, oh, but we should be Catholic. So my thing is like, I've analyzed this media thing for a long time, looking at the divorce rate and how it's going up and thinking, is this healing itself?
Right. Well, Well, I think you're right that there's very different kinds of breakups. Sometimes it's just a replay of an old destructive pattern getting played out again with no resolution. That's pretty common. Also, what happens, we see, if I'm working with someone and they are married or in a relationship, there's one of three things that will happen if they are choosing to work on themselves. Their partner will join them and be inspired by them and will also work on themselves, and they'll get into this beautiful symbiosis where they're helping each other, inspiring each other, challenging each other. Or, more commonly, the other person resists the change and they blow up and they can't, they try to hold the other person back.
Yep.
Right? I said one of three. Okay, one of two. Yeah. That's basically the two things that you usually see happen. Like, they get unified and inspired by each other, they grow together, or they split apart because one person is refusing to be held down, refusing to participate anymore, and the other person, that's right, I remember the third one. So the third one, and this is the most unfortunate, is the person who is doing the work decides that the relationship is more important than themselves.
And they go back to sleep.
Those
are the worst ones. Those are like the casualties of my practice, Seth.
Yeah.
As I confess really here today as a coach, I'm just like, those ones are the worst. And you know what they do is they project it on me sometimes.
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because they need, in order to live that truth, they need to get out of a relationship with me.
Right. Well, because they're getting out of relationship with their own healing, right? And yeah, no, that's really sad when that happens. So
true enough. Thank you for acknowledging that. I don't think I've ever even given that air. Like, it's just like, yeah, it does. It
happens. Yeah. So yeah, that's in terms of divorce rates accelerating, everything's accelerating. And people who were not well are being not well more faster. Like, they're getting sicker faster. People who have been turning their attention to healing are healing faster. So it's like it's everything is increasing. There's increased energy available.
There's increased impact to everything you do.
Exactly. Whatever trend you're on, there's going to be more. Okay, so it's. And
is it going to wave, or is it just going to?
It's going to keep on going up until it gets to the point where it can stabilize. I don't know exactly when or how that's going to look like. There's many different ideas about what that's going to look like. Some people think that culmination is going to be in some kind of big global event, like a disclosure. There's the talk of the solar flash, where the sun exudes its corona and goes dark for a few days and then comes to life again as part of this 29,000-year cycle. That's been talked about as something that might happen. There's lots of different ideas. There's, the idea that we're going to see the Pope standing together with one of the folks from one of the more humanoid ET races, right? That they're going to make an announcement together, and there's going to be this disclosure of information. There's lots of different scenarios. I don't honestly know exactly what it's going to be. Just right now, just on the news, and this is, again, turning the lens to the news as a way of observing anthropologically what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that thing that we've been talking about.
Okay, there it is. Right. There's the announcement of the hole, this mysterious hole in Antarctica. Well, anybody who's been, researching this stuff for decades, like I have, knows that there's massive civilization under Antarctica, that there's a hole into inner Earth civilizations in Antarctica. Oh, now there's this massive hole in Antarctica. Oh my God, it's in the mainstream news. So, we could be starting to see little drips of this kind of disclosure coming out. Another place that you see it, and I want to tie this back into media, there is positive media. So it's few and far between, but the Marvel franchise, the Marvel movies, in fact, are very much in alignment with the positive forces. They are bringing out disclosure in all those superhero movies. You have stuff. What? Oh yeah. The cloaking technology, even the kinds of ships that have those kind of the propellers and the wings, and its anti-gravity technology. The idea of multidimensional civilizations, the Asgardians.
What? Tell me what to watch. My son will love this. What are we watching?
All of it. The whole Marvel franchise. The Avengers movies, the Captain America movies, the Thor movies. They're like
telling the truth.
They're telling the truth. They're. I mean, it's fantasized. It's embellished. I mean.
But it's along the storyline, though.
A lot of what they're showing you is like, so, it talks about Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Avengers. There's this group called Hydra, which has been behind the scenes influencing events in the American intelligence communities. That's real. The Nazis infiltrated the U.S. intelligence community in Operation Paperclip way back in the 1950s and at the end of the war. So that they're saying, look, here's this thing, and they're presenting it as fantasy, but it's actually very much based in reality. So that's one example of media that is planting seeds of truth and disclosure.
Oh, goodness. And they have like Monsanto in there or something as like the evil seed stealer.
I don't know if they don't use Monsanto, but there's stuff, all sorts of stuff around genetic manipulation,
like biohazards and this type of thing.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. There's a lot of little drips and drabs of.
But this is the thing. Okay, this is where I'm at with stuff in the air, like chemtrails. This is what I can't figure out. It's like, if it's true, and like I keep asking people this question, if it's true that that's happening, which I can see it myself, like if you're telling me it's a cloud, it's not, like it came out of a plane, you know, if that's actually happening, what is it? Like, what is it that they want us all breathing, and for what purpose?
Well, if you want to talk specifically about chemtrails, they're used for a few different things. The major purpose is to filter out the vibration that's coming to us from the sun and from the cosmos right now. If you notice, like the sun is a little different than it used to be. It's quite bright.
Yeah.
In a kind of, it's different way. There's a different quality to it.
And the sky is like super light blue. It's not even like a true blue.
Yeah, no, it's the radiance of the sun has changed. And it's part of this process of the Earth and the galaxy moving into this different region of the universe. It's just, like I say, the vibration is getting finer.
So all they would need to do is like spray little mirrors kind of thing, like titanium dioxide, and then
it's like a filter. Yeah, exactly. It's like a filter to block that stuff from getting to us because
it's actual light. Like when we're talking about vibration, we're talking about light.
Yes, absolutely.
The same thing. Like a lot of people had this idea of like, I don't know, like vibration as though it's something other than light. I'm like, it's light.
Oh yeah, it's all light. Yeah, light.
Like that's what it is.
Sound,
it's bright light.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of ways, and this is another danger of getting into this world though, and getting into these discussions. It's so easy for then the chemtrails or Monsanto or vaccinations or et cetera, et cetera. It's so easy to have that then just be another way to get caught up in fear and survival. And
yes.
So it's like, let's keep on bringing it back to like, okay, sure, there's a lot of fucked up shit in the world.
Yeah.
What can I do in terms to get more in touch with myself, to get more in touch with my wounding that may need to be addressed, right? What can I do?
Say that tongue in cheek. Your trauma needs to be addressed. Alert, alert. Your trauma needs to be addressed.
Yes, it's true. Yeah.
Well, and that's so true. And thank you for saying that, because it's like you can get dragged into it and then you're fighting the injustice in your mind. And the truth is, with a regulated nervous system, we have a heightened immunity. So even if that is the case, you're still better off to chill the F out. And,
you got it.
You
got it.
Be the way.
Well, and that's a really important thing to understand, is that our human system, when it is strong, when it is, when our nervous system is regulated, such that we can have access to all of our functions properly, such that we can have access to our energy body properly, we're pretty indestructible. I mean, we can transmute and process a lot.
Yes.
So it comes from...
And transcend a lot.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, just coming back to that of let's this is our media. Let this be our source of news.
Yes.
Right?
And our healthcare system.
Yeah, you got it.
Like it's super cheap. Just like, all the money you're paying, the monthly fees you have on that heart that keeps beating tirelessly for you.
Right.
You don't have to pay bills on it.
Right. It's free.
Check it out. It's free. You know? It's where the keys are hanging.
That's right.
Anyways, let's just give some hacks at the end of this. Is that okay? Like, I'm all about practicality. Like, if someone's sitting here listening to us and going like, yeah, I'm traumatized.
And
the conversation is making it worse.com, So it's like, can we give them something to take away, just a little exercise to have them, just experience maybe orientation or getting oriented, or just something so that we can, deliver, a nervous system treat,
Sure. Okay, well, let's do that. Let's also give them some resources.
Yes.
So first I'll say my wife, Irene, she is the champion of the nervous system health. She has developed amazing ways for everyone to access it online with her online programs. And lots of free stuff, tons of free information. So go to YouTube, Google Irene Lyon, check out her channel. You will learn so much about yourself, your nervous system, your physiology, how it's supposed to work, how it doesn't work, etc. Also check out her website, irenelyon.com, and my website if you want to read some of my stuff, sethlyon.com.
I'll take all this under the video too.
Put it all under the video. It's all sorts of good free stuff. And if you want to actually do the work, then there's some programs that you can enroll in that are very good to start this process.
So good. And I can testify, I'm a student. You'll see me in there giving my oath to taking in the knowledge again.
Yeah.
Up-leveling my nervous system one more time.
Yeah. So that's the resources. So now let's just do a little exercise. So I'll do this as if I'm speaking to you, just because you're in front of me.
I can use it.
Okay. So just take a moment and let your eyes come away from the screen. If you want to close them, that's fine. If you want to have them open and looking around, that's fine. And just connect first to the fact that you're sitting. Take a moment and connect to the fact that you're sitting, that you have this butt and it's on a chair. Just that. And again, your eyes can be open, your eyes can be closed, whatever is easiest for you. Feeling that simple contact of support. And notice how your breath just got a little deeper. And that is happening too now. You have this seat and you have breath that is coming in and out. And now not everybody may be relaxed. Some people may notice slight agitation in their breath or that it's tight. And if that's the case, okay, that's the way it is. Just notice that. Oh, here's my breath. This is how it is. And feel your seat. If you're feeling quite agitated, I'd suggest not having your eyes closed, actually having them open, looking around. And maybe, Charis, you could just demonstrate this a bit, just the idea of just glancing around, seeing what's around you. What are the things? What are the colors? What are the shapes? And find something, find some object in your space that's easy to be with, that's easy to look at. And just notice that. Just hang out with that. Hang out with that thing and feel your butt on the chair. And notice your breath if you can as well. And notice, is it easier now? Like that you're just looking at this thing that's outside of you that's easy to look at. Is it easier to breathe a little bit? Noticing those signals that are saying, hey, this thing is pleasurable. This thing is safe. Yeah. Good. And that's really basic, we call that orientation. And it's just...
It's so good.
It's something that all animals in the wild do as part of their life, and something that we forget to do or we're never taught to do. Just being aware of our environment and our connection to it. Taking 3 minutes to notice that you have a butt that's sitting on a chair, and you have this breath that's coming in and out, and if that's a little hard to be with, that, oh, okay, there's these things around me, and oh, that's nice to look at. And I'll just look there. Okay, yeah. Just doing that a few times a day is going to interrupt the survival pattern that most of us are in all the time. So
yeah. And it's funny, the one thing that I love about Irene's videos too is there's always like in her healing, in the intro videos, there's these fresh flowers.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm like, oh, Irene likes fresh flowers, or at least she has them on her set. And, I bought them especially for orientating because I was like, it just feels good to look at flowers.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, it just feels good to look at flowers. Like, why do you buy flowers? It's like, because they feel good to look at.
Yeah, that's right.
And if you're like me and you're like seeing a couple clients every day or hosting group sessions or stuff like this, it's like, it's helpful if your facilitator shows up regulated. Otherwise, everybody's going to be moving around and, doing whatever they're doing. you know, on top of my nervous system, you know, we have to be really responsible for who we are as leaders too.
Oh yeah.
You know, making sure that, you know, we aren't letting fear get to the best of us, because, and that's funny because I was sharing with you about this station. It was like after that thing, Tracy and I just like stopped and we were like, we need to think about this. Because if we just come flying out and say like, oh, that stuff is garbage, that's not helpful either. So we really need to keep our focus on getting healed, getting well, knowing that you're self-sustained, knowing that you have a community, knowing that you can afford it, even knowing that money doesn't matter anymore. Like if, you know, if all this stuff's just stopped, you'd be okay. Like you'd be okay because you have people. Right? Like you have people in your life that like care, right? That, and you would just be creating them, right?
Yeah.
And they're there already because, you know, a lot of people say, well, I don't have any money, so I can't do anything. It's like this station that we created was almost to connect people in Alberta and BC and say, get connected.
Yeah, here we are.
Get connected. Here's your farms. Here's your leaders. Here's your yogis. Here's your nervous system. Here's your this. You know, you guys are in Vancouver. It's, you know, you're my perfect guest. You're in our zone, right? You say like we're not just like bullshit online education. We're not just anything like that. We're Alberta, BC focused.
Okay.
Media, right? Alberta and BC focused media. And it's not boring stuff. It's like what we want to cover is basically artists, musicians, healers, communities, things that are working, things that aren't, things that we want to talk about cannabis. Right? We want to talk about, you know, what, like forget the plant, forget that it's going to be fine to smoke weed. Just forget that it doesn't even matter. People are smoking weed all the time anyways.
Right.
Like, forget about that. Okay. How does this change our culture? Like what opportunity do we have to come together and heal? Because that's what that medicine is for. You know, it's for, you know, coming, and it's not also don't smoke it. Like, you know, take it, eat it, you know, cook with it, be with it, understand it, you know, like create a relationship with plants around you that are there to help you, you know.
So many plant helpers. Yeah.
And mushroom helpers and, you know, nature helpers and forest helpers, you know, there's like, we got it all, man. We got it all. It's just bringing people to that space, that stillness where they can access it and not just be like, oh, Heidi, oh, I'm enlightened. And, you know, you should be able to meditate like me. Like stop meditating also. And like have a breath and a seat and a be, you know, like, because it's just like, oh, and now I'm running. I'm late for yoga. I gotta go. Like it's like.
Well, that's a lot of people when it comes to healing, they're putting the cart way before the horse. They're starting with things that require regulation to be effective, and yet they're not regulated, right? So meditation, yoga, advanced energy work. All of these things require a nervous system to be regulated in order for them to be effective.
Yes.
And most people are not regulated. So what they're doing is they're overriding and then just reinforcing negative coping strategies that are happening inside. So,
am I ever glad that you brought that up? A lot of our viewers are people in the field. Right? People working for good, leaders, owners of yoga studios, all this different stuff. You know, obviously, if you're going to get trained by Irene at some point, you know, which we're all on the waiting list to hear, you know, what will happen when you guys start training. And also, her prerequisite is that you're going to have taken her training at least once.
Her online class. Yeah.
Right. And so in my, like, you know, look out over the horizon, like this is how to get healthy. This is how to get your nervous system healthy. Like if our healthcare system was smart, they would be purchasing your program for a large sum of money and, you know, just getting rid of a large sector of mental illness, chronic pain, digestive disorder, respiratory issues, addictions, you know, like it's so freaking holistic. So I just want to say, where do we go as practitioners with you guys? Like you guys are developing a program at some point. Is it okay to teach your techniques once you're enrolled in the program? And like, can it be a business expense as well as a personal upgrade kind of thing?
Gotcha. Yeah, right now, the best thing to do is to enroll in the 12-week course, which is actually starting soon. It's on October 17th.
Oh, 17th.
Less than a week, yeah. And if you want to link that below, smartbodysmartmind.com.
I will, absolutely.
For the practitioners out there, this isn't a program to teach you how to be a trauma therapist or a nervous system specialist. It's a program to teach you how to work on yourself and develop that lens. Now, once you get that, there is no way that you're going to be able to help from applying it to what you already do. Okay, so we're not teaching you specifically how to work with trauma, but what's going to happen is if you go through this course, you're going to get all this knowledge and insight about yourself and your own system that's organically going to trickle out into the work that you're doing. So though I don't want to say like I'm bashing all yoga and all meditation. No. It's just that the way it's being presented now most often is not effective for most of the population because it needs to have an understanding of the nervous system in place and trauma. If a yoga coach has the knowledge that they would get from doing Irene's program, then that could be wonderful. What an amazing thing. Trauma-informed yoga. Wow.
Amazing. Yes.
So
or teachers, nurses.
Right. Yeah. I mean, everybody who's in any kind of field where you're working with people could benefit from this kind of work, not just personally, but also in terms of making your work stronger. Yeah. Amazing.
Yes. You guys are just like, I talk a lot about you guys, in high esteem around, the course is a bit expensive. However, like, what does it cost you when you don't go to work for 10 days? Because
we broke it down. It's about $130 a week.
Right.
And if you go to
like around therapy, at the bar. Yeah.
You go to therapy once a week, that's going to be more than that. It's like
exactly.
It's actually not that expensive when you think about all the shit that people are doing that doesn't work. So,
and somebody said the other day, they were like, because I was preaching about you guys again, right? I was like, you guys, you got to get into this program. Like, if you want to be coaches, you got to get regulated, and a couple of my coaches are in your next training.
Awesome.
And they were like, well, if it can save you from a divorce, doesn't that make it worth like millions or something? And I was like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly my point.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. People don't understand the ripple effects of nervous system work. It's not just your health. It's your relationships. It's your ability to show up and be potent in the world.
Totally.
To know your purpose, to know what you're supposed to be doing in the first place.
All of that.
All of that. All of it. It all comes from it.
I say there's a statistic that says that when we are stressed out and in fear, we are 75% less intelligent. Less intelligent. Like, if you learn to hack your nervous system, you're basically like, that's when you're into like working an hour and a half a day, like I can just apply myself, watch me,
Yeah,
it took 10 minutes to, breathe my air.
Right.
It doesn't usually make the schedule, except for me. I say, guys, we got to slow down to speed up, like, and it's like immediate, like, and it's not meditation. It's like, I am in a body. I am on a chair. I feel my heart. I'm thirsty. I need to go to the washroom.
Exactly.
Like, it's like that. It's like, I am the owner of a body 10 minutes,
Yeah.
Oh, my legs could use some cream. Oh, I want to brush my teeth again. Like, it's like all of a sudden you're here and you're like, wow, there's lots to do just right here.
Yeah, exactly.
Before I hop into the next appointment or do the next thing, we used to teach this to my practitioners at my clinic. And it was just like that, like, take the half hour.
Yeah.
Just take it, don't massage overtime so that you're, adrenalized so that you get to your next appointment. That's a big thing that I hear Irene say is like, if people aren't progressing in your practice, it's you, it's not them. Like, it's like, it's you, if your programs aren't effective, if people are breaking down, if people aren't returning your emails, like, this is a business practice, like, regulate your nervous system. It's revolutionary. And she says that she is a revolutionary. You both are, It's amazing. And are you guys still offering a payment plan? I just wanted to, Yeah,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
how I paid for it. And I was like, you know, starting a new business, and it was just an investment that represented really where I am with my business, you know, like it's my health first, and that's it. Right. So it's like nervous system work gets scheduled into the calendar. The first time I went through, missed it.
Right. I remember
Missed it.
Yeah.
Second time I went through, I actually did the stuff, right? And I got the benefit from it. And now I'll be in my third round, and it's just, you know, Tuesday mornings, that's what I do.
Yeah. Well, it's
Monday's
important
always busy, right? And then Tuesday, it's like, okay, let's get some productive, heartfelt, purposeful stuff done. Stuff I said I was going to do, you know?
Yeah. So, you got it. You got it.
I'm so grateful.
Well, thank you.
For taking this time. And I'm going to zip this into a little link, and then I can pass it to you in any form if you want to share your, you know, to share our interview. I want to thank you guys so much for your work. And I know that, you know, it's nice that, you know, we can earn money online, and it speaks to who you guys are in your lives, like keeping the balance, you know, showing us that you're traveling, telling us about your marriage. Like, you guys are really out there. And it's like it's a great, I know that it's a great sacrifice, and moreover, it's a great service. And I just really wanted to acknowledge the both of you for really like being with this community as a couple, and like, you know, like, because it can kind of feel like the window's always open, I can imagine. And it's like, thank you for living in a way that speaks to good nervous system health and being the example. And I just wanted to honor that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And really just wonderful to see you too, and how far you've come. Like,
thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that you took this time with us, and also just in my own journey that, you know, you were just there. You were available, you were online, had your shingle out, and I was able to find you. So
awesome.
Have an awesome day. Thanks so much, Seth. And I'll pass this over to you. Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.